decay, or is it actually true from everything?
It's a lot of things, but it's self-hatred. Every city,
Crazy.
every European city, every American city. It's just why people lose their will to live, their will to pass on their culture, their values, their religion to their children, their will to have children. It's all gone. I notice it because I travel outside the Western world, the white world. I'm just be honest, the white world.
Right.
There's none of that here. Are you kidding? All the whites, oh, we love black people. Then they run and move to Bozeman because there are no black people.
Absolutely.
You go to the Gulf, and it's incredible to be in a place that has pride in itself, that believes in its religion. Those people are happy. They're welcoming of others. They're tolerant of diversity. They're Muslims.
They're Muslims.
It's a country governed by Sharia law. I travel so much that I see it. There's not a single Western city that's thriving, and they're all degrading in exactly the same way.
Is a lot of it just a moral decay, or is it actually true from everything?
It's a lot of things, but it's self-hatred. Every city.
Crazy.
Every European city, every American city. It's just why people lose their will to live, their will to pass on their culture, their values, their religion to their children, their will to have children. It's all gone. I notice it because I travel outside the Western world, the white world. I'm just be honest, the white world.
Right.
There's none of that here. Are you kidding? All the whites, oh, we love black people. Then they run and move to Bozeman because there are no black people.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I passed that on to you, right, Claire? So because you've been talking about Sharia law, and when we often in the past when you say Sharia law, it sounds like we're live, right? Yes, we are. So often when we said Sharia law in the past, people are like, oh, that sounds terrible because of all the propaganda. But I think that's turning. People are realizing it works. People go to Muslim countries. People are leaving the West to go to Muslim countries. Like I've left the West, gone to Jordan. I'm living in Jordan right now. I used to live in London, England. So the things are changing. What's your opinion?
Yes, white people will be economic migrants, leaving their own countries to do better in other countries, unless they fix themselves.
Sadly, it's happening. Go on.
It seems they're incapable of doing that. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed. I mean, I guess you don't really go much on social media, but the kind of berserking themselves into a froth of hatred so they can, I guess, get it together to kick everyone out that they hate. It's the Jews, it's the Muslims when you go to these Twitter spaces. So I guess the people who leave, but there will be a lot of, old people, poor people who will have to stay in the West. And I guess will be subject to the political violence that is coming when I guess maybe the welfare checks won't come through on whenever it is in America. They have to approve the budget or something. I don't know if you're aware of that. And if they don't, a lot of people won't get their welfare checks, and they might go berserk in America. But maybe that's a plan.
Interesting, yeah. So loads of people are already leaving the West for Dubai and the Far East. Far East is really popular, and Malaysia is pretty popular Muslim country, but also other places like Vietnam or whatever.
China, even.
Do you know that? China, China sounds amazing. Like I keep seeing so many videos of
the drone shows.
Oh, that as well. You mean generally the drone shows are amazing. There's one drone show I thought maybe you were talking about that went wrong, but even that looked amazing for the first few seconds.
I didn't see the one that went wrong.
Oh yeah, they broke down and started dropping or something. But normally it's like amazing. Yeah, like the whole place, just the drone shows, their bridges, everything's like so extreme and big and new, and their takeaway delivery systems we're using drones as well. So many amazing things happening. So an exciting place to go to. I don't know if it's how cheap it is there. It does have its population problems. But if they support the Muslims there, because they have lots of Muslims, maybe they can save themselves. But yeah.
Well, I mean, the Chinese Communist Party is more likely to come to a rational decision, like, oh, we really do have a population demographic problem. What could induce Chinese parents to have more than one kid? And it's like, you know, they're more in a position to do it than people in the West, right?
Yeah. Because they've got good. You can call it dictatorship, or how would you describe it?
Well, they don't have elections, so they don't have to worry about election results and rigging them and faking them and all kinds of things. So, and also politicians don't have to regularly make promises that they don't intend to keep. And you know, and that would really piss off the people, right? If they keep coming up and asking for your vote and lying to you, you'll soon get tired of them. But if they stay kind of distant and, you know, appear to be doing their job and not be completely, you know, moronic or mad, you might give them a bit of respect.
I think a lot of countries, sorry, are going to be forced into following Sharia law. Like China, they had a one-child policy for a long time, and then they moved to a three-child policy because they realized they needed more children, but people are not doing it, except for probably the Muslims. But I think a lot of Muslims are getting tired, because I know a lot of Muslims in Jordan from China who got tired of all the restrictions on Islam. Like, you can't, in some states, you have to be 18 before you're even allowed to step into a mosque, you know, because of this sort of anti-religion attitude in China. So I think they're going to have to reverse that idea, because they're going to run out of children, and they're going to have to do something about it, and they're going to have to come back to Sharia law, just like so many people are realizing, including, for people who don't know, everybody knows Tucker Carlson, right? Who we just played, right? Yeah, and he's like, he's like, big time Christianity's the best, but now he's like, oh, like, we're having massive problems, like, in his own words, like every American city has a massive problem in terms of having children. They're not happy, and everything. Crime, everything's going wrong, and he's like looking at these Muslim countries and saying they don't have these problems. And he's not the first person to say that. There's a famous thing before Andrew Tate became Muslim. He's like, I've been to Muslim countries, they don't have our problems. They're like, this Islam is solving everything. And he's like, Christianity is like a religion for losers, in his words. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, Elliot asks, why do some Muslims ostentatiously pray in the street?
You know what? That's a good question. So Muslims are not supposed to pray in pathways. So if they're blocking anybody, that's not correct. Now, I think I saw a clip where some famous YouTubers who've become Muslim were praying in Times Square. And I'm not sure exactly how Times Square works. I know it's a huge pedestrian area, isn't that right? And is that right?
I know in the UK it's a crime to obstruct the highway, or so.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. In
the UK,
they weren't doing it, but I guess if they are doing it, it is really to intimidate the non-Muslims, right?
I don't think so.
It's sort of really in your face. It's like, look at us, we're here and we're praying. Screw you, you know. Yeah, you know, which is that's how it's interpreted anyway. And you know, people will keep doing it, and I guess the message is, you know, being done.
Maybe that's how, because I saw a recent video where some famous YouTubers have become Muslim, were being told off by some other so-called Muslim, Myron of
Myron Games.
Yeah, the Fresh and Fit guy, right? He was like, oh, why are Muslims doing that? He's a Muslim himself, right? And he might be right to the extent if people are being blocked. But I think he suggested what you're saying, that, oh, you're trying to intimidate people. And then this other Muslim who was in part of that group, he said, like, how could that be intimidating? You're putting your head on the ground, like, what? That's a weak and submissive, and your bum
I mean, the thing is,
a
I mean, they
bum
can't
in the air.
stand the sight of you. They can't stand, even hearing Arabic, the way that Muslims talk, they try to explain something to Christians and then they cite their Arabic, they spout their Arabic. They already know that the Christian doesn't understand Arabic, but still they just have to hold it. Oh, it's this verse, blah, 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 and it's like they keep doing it. I don't know if they're doing it on purpose.
So I think people can take it different ways. Some people might see it as a beautiful form of unity. I think maybe that's what the intention was from the YouTuber that I was talking about, Sonny. He's an Italian convert, right? So that could be. It's really like, but in
people
Islam,
are so impatient. Even in English, it's like, get to your point. Land your fucking plane. And it's like, oh no, we have to speak in Arabic to people who don't even understand it, who already hate you, but still you have to, this verse is. Then they had to explain it. It's completely triggering. I don't know if they're doing it on purpose or they're just moronic, They just can't get out of this habit of showing off any Arabic that they know, because a lot of them aren't even Arabic speakers, right? It's like me sort of, talking in French to you or Latin just to show off that, I've had an education, and the plebs in the chat, they don't understand, they get bored. But, I guess it's a Muslim equivalent of, pissing on the plebs, I guess.
I think, okay, so my answer is their intention was to demonstrate some beautiful show of unity and humility and remind people to pray to God, because that's the purpose of life, right? But what you're saying is, like, there are lots of people with a negative attitude and they're ready to hate on you already, and you're just giving an opportunity, right? And also, would I do it? I wouldn't do it if it was at all in anybody's way, because that's against the teachings of Islam. I have, because Muslims are very organized, we would often go on trips. Like when I was small, there'll be Muslim boys' trip to, this Thorpe Park or whatever, these different places, public places where people enjoy themselves. What do they call it? Theme parks, right? And we'll be a huge group of Muslims, 60, 100, whatever, maybe 200 Muslims, right? We would have to pray somewhere. We would find a green lawn, and we would all pray together. And it wouldn't be to show off, because like Muslims have to pray 5 times a day. And this is a Muslim group, and they were demonstrating to the kids, you should pray. So we pray together in public. And it wouldn't be like a case of showing off. It's just what we do. And so there's different scenarios.
But in Hyde Park, in Speaker's Corner, that they would do that until they were banned from doing it, right?
Yeah.
You were.
Yeah, I used to pray over there
when they were doing that.
Yeah. I think they've been praying for ages, and now I don't know if they still
outside
pray
the park gates.
Yes.
Because they're forbidden from doing that in
I was never there when they did it as a group inside the park. But they do it outside the park, and they do it very loudly as well. I mean, when I say loudly, they've got massive speakers. I
remember going up to them, because there'd be all these prayer mats, and I'd say, "Oh, were you selling these carpets?"
You know what? I don't even know what's so funny about that, but it's like, British or Western people just so uptight about everything. It's like, relax.
Well, I mean, they're already triggered. I mean, it's not just Muslims that are triggered about, they're triggered about Hindus and then Jews and, but I suppose, Muslims are the most in-your-face people that they can get triggered about, and then they can say, oh yes, terrorism and blah, 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 and, Southport Slayer and that kind of thing.
You know what? I don't know about in your face. It's just open and direct. So, for example, I love these funny videos, especially amongst these famous UFC fighters. Like, there's a good there's a big Muslim presence. And so one UFC fighter was explaining like how he was not a Muslim, and he was saying a few anti-Islamic things. And then one of his Muslim friends, who was also a UFC fighter, would come to him, and I find it quite funny, but this is a very Muslim way of doing things. He'd be like, the Muslim would put his hands on this other guy's legs and say, "Brother, I've got to talk to you about this thing." So there's kind of like less boundaries. And then and then he would explain to him, like, I can't be friends with you because you're insulting Islam, which is not correct. You can be friends with people who are insulting Islam. I'm friends with so many Islamophobes, right? But you can be kind at least, right? But the point is, he explained it in this very kind of no boundaries way. My brother, please don't insult Islam. I can't be friends with you. And he's got his hands on the other guy's shoulder, legs and stuff, which is like really weird for Westerners, right? Like Muslims are touchy-feely, hugging all the time and stuff. We don't have boundaries. So maybe that lack of boundaries seems like in your face, but it's just like, hey, here we are. Like, this is Islam. We're really proud of, like, Muslims are really proud of their religion. You know what I mean? So when people in the West go, you're preaching, it's like, yeah, we're preaching. We want you to know about it. It's amazing. It's changed my life. I want your life to be changed, because we don't see you as the enemy. We want you. You're our brother or sister. We want you to enjoy Islam like we do. So it's kind of a different perception. I think there's individualistic them and us kind of attitude in the West, where the Muslims are like, even the converts, they become different. They're like, there is no them and us. It's like we're all together, one human family.
Yes, I suppose I'm just saying that the Westerner is kind of losing his mind, really, because A, he hasn't got a proper religion. He knows that the current religion is not doing him any good. B, he wants to blame Jews, but he's criminalized for, inciting hatred against them. And then he wants to blame Muslims, and he's not allowed to say anything against them either. And I guess in a way it's sort of boiling over, his rage and frustration. And a lot of them, that they're just not able to, discuss things rationally. I try to say to them, look, everybody has a religion. That's why, even people who don't really believe pretend to believe, because they, need the group protection. And so that's why countries, claim to be whatever religion they are, even if they're not. And, obviously, in the West, our religion is liberalism. But now they're shy of saying that. They used to talk about the liberal order and liberal values and that kind of thing, but they've stopped doing that now, it seems to me. So,
why are they stopping it? Because I think that's what we started off with. It doesn't seem to be working.
And they're ashamed of it. And I think that the cooking up something. And it seems to me that the cooking up hatred against Muslims in the UK. I mean, if you listened to X, there are lots of very strident anti-Islam anti-Islamic tweets, usually with the same old stuff, grooming gangs, whatever. It's nothing new. What I'm saying is it's nothing new, but the intensity of the hatred seems to me to be rising. And what concerns me is that Muslims don't quite know how to deal with it. They just do their spouting Arabic at the thing, or only talk to them in unrecorded spaces. So you're just wasting your time. It's like being a writer. You write a whole page of stuff and then you tear it up. What's the point? There's nothing on record. They don't even, argue with them by responding to their tweets to contradict them. They
Oh, really? People don't respond to.
Well, I think that they're mostly hanging out with each other, preaching to the converted in their, Muslim-only spaces, right? With a few sort of token Jews and non-Muslims there, because safety in numbers and that kind of thing. I guess really I'm getting a bit.
Because maybe on YouTube, and YouTube gets a lot of attention by non-Muslims. I've got a student who always asks me about Islam. He said, I went to this Muslim channel. I went to this Muslim channel. He's a Christian, basically, like Christian, not practical Christian, but like Christian brought up.
Cultural Christian.
Cultural Christian, that's the one. So like there's plenty of Muslims. Non-Muslims going to Muslim spaces, as it were, not spaces as in the X spaces, but Muslim social media channels and
yes,
etc.
channels and things.
So
Yes,
yeah.
online
So,
spaces.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a good sign. But I mean, I think theology is important because it's sort of like, well, are you thinking of religion because you really believe in God, or you're thinking of believing in God, or it must be one or the other. Because when people get scared, it doesn't matter what religion they are, they will be rushing to their usual place of religious worship, right? And if you don't go, you might go to the religious worship of the place of religious worship of your parents or ancestors. It's your kind of nearest thing. So when I talk to Americans, they say our churches are full. But you think, in America, it doesn't matter. You can go to church all you like. You're not going to change any of the laws in Congress. So if you're an American and you say to Congress, oh, hey, the Bible says whatever, the Congress will tell you to get lost. Because they're saying, we're separated the church from the state. But it doesn't mean just the church, because I know that there was a Jew who was saying, oh, but, I'm starting my conversion therapy clinics because my only son has gone gay. And obviously, as Jews, I can't send my kid to all these Christian conversion therapy clinics. So I have to start, a whole bunch of, Jewish ones, and he had to, he had to pay damages, apparently, and he can't apply to the federal court when he lost his case. So this was a rich Jewish man setting up, a chain of conversion clinics, and
What's a conversion therapy? What is that?
It's when you're gay and you don't want to be, and you go to this conversion therapy to tell, to reinforce your, desire not to be gay anymore.
I see. Okay.
And basically, the American government has said, you can't do this. We're not letting you have these because we celebrate gayness. How dare you make gay people uncomfortable and try to persuade them not to be gay? How dare you? It's not legal, and no, you can't apply to the federal court, Mr. Jew. So I've forgotten his name now, but it's quite a famous case.
Right?
I'll send it to you. But you see, this is the problem with America. So I mean, I don't know what these American Christians are doing going to church. You're not going to change your laws. Right? And it's like, and then of course with the murder of Charlie Kirk, who openly identified as Christian nationalist, that must have been, very scary for them. And then, 11 days after, his widow forgave his killer, which must have been, terrible for Christian husbands everywhere. So
what do you think? What do you think about how apparently lots of people are coming back to Christianity not because they believe in Christianity, but because they've seen the atheist experiment of just doesn't work for life, right? So they're coming back to God, and as you said, they're going to go back to their default, religion which their ancestors had, or their grandparents, I should say. So they're coming back to Christianity. I think sales in Bibles are going up and all that kind of stuff. What do you think about that?
Well, I follow this online community headed by Paul Van der Klee. I think you did speak to him once or twice, didn't you? And he's his Calvinist pastor, and there's basically a lot of Jews and Christians within the group talking about religion and their views on it, and he's sort of set up these estuary meetings, which are basically meetings for confused Americans who don't know if they want to be Christian, are post-Christian and atheist, and complain about too much Jesus, and so they don't even agree. But the thing is, I know you don't quite approve of me listening to them, because they talk so much nonsense, and a lot of it is just babble, because
absolutely, it's so boring.
They dare not say what they mean. So they go around all the houses and beat around the bush, and then nobody even knows what they're trying to say. But it's sort of, but it's okay. We're all friends here, and we don't judge each other, and we're white.
I think they're making
and Christian. that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
so they're making the same mistake they've always made, the Christians, which is they're watering down their religion. They're not standing for anything, and then it goes nowhere. So they're scared of losing the new liberals that are joining them, like the liberals who are like, oh, being an atheist doesn't work. Okay, let's try a religion, try Christianity. They're scared of losing them, but they're going to lose them by default because they're not guiding them. Isn't that right?
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, everybody's confused. Like, even a conversation, it's like, are we just complaining, or are we talking about a solution? Or, I mean, there is a purpose to every conversation, right? That's why we have, people, recording the meetings of a minute, and there would be an agenda, and who is present and who said what, and minutes agreed, and that kind of business-like approach, which they used to. They started the whole thing, right? And now, you can have a pointless conversation. It's like, why did that person even talk to the other person? Because obviously they
Yeah.
hope
So
for some kind of comfort or understanding, like, I feel your pain and whatever. But I mean, just to quickly finish my point about Paul van der Klee, he is obviously aware that a lot of his, the people who go to church, are kind of conservative and MAGA Americans, but he's a Democrat, right? So, so he's got to accommodate them while accommodating his own, loyalty as a Democrat, member, supporter or something. So you can see from his language that he is conflicted. But occasionally he says interesting things like there can be no Christian nationalism because there is no Church of America, and if there were a Church of America, what would it be? And then he said it would be the church of, it would be whichever church the current American president goes to. And that's it. That's the most you can get with this Christian nationalism thing, right?
I think Muslims are nationalists. I'm a nationalist. I'm proud of whichever country I'm in. Like, as Ahmadi Muslim, so people don't know I'm a certain kind of Muslim, we actually have to do a pledge when we have our big gatherings, and the pledge is to the country as well. So, but we're also internationalists. Like, we're not like, oh, we've got to dominate over other countries and stuff like that. But we believe in like volunteering to help the country. We famously go on, what they call it, New Year's Eve, or not New Year's Eve, after New Year's, around the world, right? Different European countries, I should say, especially, where after everybody's gone drunk and made a mess, we go up like 4 o'clock in the morning and start tidying up the place, right?
Mhm.
City centers and stuff. Like, that's our idea of nationalism, right? Doing anything we can, support local communities without even preaching necessarily. It's like you've been to some of our barbecues, right?
Mhm.
And we would do that up and down the country, and we wouldn't necessarily talk about Islam too much, a little bit maybe, but not much. We'd have like a, I don't know, an exhibition for people to check out if they want to. But yeah, so
And free food, which you're very
free
good at.
food. Yeah, exactly. So, and we bring communities to, like, my local community my local neighborhood. You know this in London. Nobody talks to their neighbors, right? So they would only talk to their neighbors and see their neighbors when we brought them. A Muslim community would bring them together. We would do a barbecue. So you went to a barbecue. Down the road would be my local barbecue, yeah. And we would bring people together and that hadn't talked to each other, even though they're neighbors for ages. They just never talked to each other. So that's nationalism for us. We're nationalistic. We're really proud. And you will see, just like Tucker Carlson was saying in that video that we played in the beginning, like, Muslims are really proud of their country. Like, over here, Muslims sing their national songs in the cars. It's normal, and they wave their flags every time they have a graduation party. And they're really proud of their country. That's part of being a Muslim. So,
Yes,
like,
so-
you don't need a specific church. I think Christians can be the same way. They don't need a Church of America, is in short.
Yes, so I mean, actually, there is a verse in the Quran that says God created tribes and nations. So he acknowledges the existence, and is, and from that we're supposed to imply that he wants tribes and nations to do well, and they would do well if they adopted Sharia, right? That's basically the idea, I think. And I took a few notes of what you said. 3 points I wanted to make about the international nature of world religions, because the whole point of having an ancient religion is that it transcends nations and empires. So, obviously, if you want a new religion, it's like, oh, it's a very old religion, and it was around from the time of the pharaohs or whatever, and so it's got a bit of a track record, unlike liberalism, for example. And yeah, I would say, I'm trying to get people to agree to the definition of nationalism, which is government in the national interest. And a lot of people, say, oh, it's meaningless, or what does a national interest mean? But actually, I think it's a useful way of saying, well, it would be in the national interest to adopt Sharia, wouldn't it? And then they can all fall about in anger and rage. But it's like, well, if you want to go back to Christianity, you'd have to reintroduce burning heretics at the stake, because that was how things were, to keep everybody Christian, when Christianity was firing on all cylinders, and have an inquisition, and invite the Jews when you want to borrow money from them, and kick them out when you get tired of paying them interest. That was how Christendom operated. But then then they had the wars of the Reformation, the Catholics and the Protestants, and then the kings of Europe decided to have their, be their own pope, like Henry VIII and the Church of England, because before that they were all Catholic, and the Pope would kick them around, for not doing as he said. So this was how it happened, and then so most Christian kingdoms rejected the power of the Pope, but then they started fighting with each other. In the case of World War I and World War II, right? And it was a terrible time for the Europeans. A lot of them died and wondered what it was all about. And also, the thing is, they don't know that 1918 was a terrible year for monarchs. So the Austrian emperor had to abdicate because the war went badly for them. Ditto the German emperor, and then for the Russian Tsar, his entire family, along with him, were killed by the Red Guards. So three absolute monarchs were extinguished in 1918. But that's never mentioned, because Britain is still a monarchy, and I guess some people want to keep it going.
Yeah. So you're saying a lot of what happened in World War I or II? I get. I'm not sure about the dates.
Well, World War One would I forget which historian it was, but he said Christendom ended in 1918. I think it was Malcolm Muggeridge, because if you think of Christendom as a word that means a portmanteau word, which means a Europe of Christian kingdoms. So it would be a Europe of absolute monarchs, and then they all the most powerful of them ended. Right, so Austria became a republic, Germany became the Weimar Republic, Russia was became the Soviet Union. So it was a seismic event, but they don't even want to talk about it now.
So you're saying the fact that these monarchies broke down is a major cause of the world wars, or at least World War One?
Well, I'm saying that Christianity did not protect Europeans from each other. They basically, it was the French and the British. They had all those colonies, and then they decided to have a fight with each other and destroy themselves. And after World War II, the center of Western power shifted from Europe to America, and that's why America is running everything. Because the Europeans destroyed themselves by their constant, warring with each other.
Sure. Shall we answer some of these questions? There's some reasonable questions. I think, is
Yeah.
Marxism compatible with Islam? Is that the first most reasonable question? Is Ireland is inflamed right now? I suppose we could respond to that. I kind of feel like it's one of those manufactured problems, but they're not really inflamed. But we could start. So where would you like to start?
I wanted to finish the point about Christianity failing to protect Europeans from each other because it has no principles of warfare.
Yeah.
So people just do whatever they like. They kill civilians, the bombing of Dresden. They go for total war, which means, poison all the wells, cut down all the trees, let everybody starve. Who cares? And this is how traditionally Europeans operated. I mean, the Geneva Convention comes from the Quran, doesn't it?
I would say a lot of it. Yeah, the Quranic principles are much. There are principles, at least in war, like don't, as you say, don't cut down trees, don't kill people who are not involved in the war. Blah blah blah. Only kill people directly. As soon as people want to have peace, you have to try to, offer them peace, etc. So yeah, I don't know the details of the Geneva Convention, but I wouldn't be surprised that if
It's
they
about
closely aligned.
yeah, it's about how you treat prisoners of war.
Yeah, so there's lots of rules about treating prisoners of war nicely in Islam. So yeah, Christianity doesn't have that because Jesus did not lead a state, and supposedly Christianity ignores the Old Testament, which would probably be even worse, I guess. The
Yeah,
Old
because
Testament was
Jews
brutal.
are obligated to exterminate Amalek. I mean, the
Yeah,
story was that, the Jews were saying, surely we don't kill their women and children and cattle. Isn't that a bit much? And God said, yes, I mean for you to
yeah.
kill even their cattle and their women and their children. You have
So
to
the Christians
exterminate. You're
don't
not
have law. Yeah, the Christians don't have laws, and the Jews are genocidal. Theologically, that's their religion, to genocide. So it'll be worse. So yeah, and Islam would be much
Yeah,
better because
it's a
yeah.
Goldilocks version of religion, isn't it?
Well, the thing, yeah, I suppose it's Goldilocks in the sense that it has laws and it's not as crazy as genocidal as Judaism. But it's not Goldilocks in the sense of comparing Christian behavior. Because Christian behavior, because they have no laws, like you said, they just go berserk and kill everybody. Like they don't seem to have rules like they didn't have any rules in World War One and Two, really. So yeah.
Yeah, because the whole point of Christianity is like, you follow the religion of your king, and the king, worships a Jew. You can't ask too many questions or you'll be accused of heresy and be burnt at the stake. But as long as you obey the law of the land and are loyal to your king, we'll let you live and maybe even prosper. And
I
that's
have
it.
I have to finish at 1:30 because I'm going to be teaching at 1:30. Shall we try to get through as many questions as possible?
Yes. So,
Yeah.
which one did you
pick
want to
one.
answer?
Well, I
I'll
mean,
let you
do you want
choose.
to start with Ireland is inflamed? We could do a 1-minute answer to that if you like. I mean, it's a bit boring for me because like manufactured problems, but yeah. Do you see
Ireland
it?
is
Yeah.
inflamed. Well, the thing is, if you're going to be to generalize, all men are rapists. All rapists are men. People get confused, right? Is it all rapists are men, or all, and then they get confused because they're stupid, and then they'll think, oh, this is kind of, like that, right? Immigrants or low status men are more likely to commit rape than high status men who are already married, who are so attractive, women throw themselves at them. So I guess, the person who most wants sex is more likely to rape. And of course,
Yeah.
as an immigrant, you're going to be quite low status. So it's always a statistical probability. So my question to these people always complaining about immigration is, well, then get it together to stop it. How are you going to stop it? How are you going to
But
stop it?
I would say they don't seem to be caring about any other rape. I'm sure there's lots of other people being raped, right? And I would say immigrants are less likely. Depends which kind of immigrants you're talking about. Like the fresh off the boats, maybe, possibly. But what about the rest of the immigrants, Muslim immigrants who are like second generation or been around for 10, 20 years and probably got married within that time? Like Muslims don't wait too long to get married, right? So like the reason why I think it's silly is because I'm sure there's so many people getting raped and they don't really care about the rest of the people getting raped. And as I've explained to Elliot before, we've gone through statistics in the UK, or should I say in England, right? And it's mostly white people doing the raping. And that makes sense because Muslims are usually married and already have sex and therefore don't need to rape anybody, so it's far less likely.
Yes. So, I mean, the media are making a point of not saying his religion, but say he's from Africa, right?
Mm.
But I mean, the point is that they're going to be, using these stories as a way of, berserking themselves and saying they've all got to go. And this is what they really want anyway. It's not just Muslims; they want the Hindus to go too, because they're also very visible. And quite loud, right? These Indians are very loud.
Yeah, and I have my doubts that Ireland is inflamed. Just like England was not really inflamed. Just a lot of a couple of unemployed British people who have been protesting in the streets and destroying properties here and there because they've got nothing else to do. That's what's really happening. It's not the whole of the UK. The rest of the people who've got jobs, they're busy doing something else. That's my opinion. That's what I see.
Yes, I suppose I have to go through the usual one of why don't I become Muslim? I don't think becoming Muslim would help me sell secular Quranism as Sharia for non-Muslims. So
Yeah.
that's
Claire would like to become Muslim, but she can't because she wants a book to sell. So let's move on. Okay, go on. What's the
plausible
next one?
deniability.
Yeah.
So, this is a question I don't understand. Why does Claire reject traditions with a much more refined analysis of the human tradition? What might they be, Elliot?
Which
What might
refined
they be?
analysis? Where's this? Is it Christian refined analysis? What alternative analysis? Maybe liberal? Is he liberal? I'm not sure. What can we
Elliot,
assume?
well, he's a MAGA American. He's MAGA.
Okay, so maybe he's Christian because MAGA
no,
often.
he's actually half Jewish. His mother's Jew. Well, I mean, a secular Jew, shall I say?
Okay, so he's a liberal then, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he would say refined is, what would he say? Like refined is no laws, or make up the laws as you go along, that kind of thing. So
Or is he? Yeah.
yeah,
Or is he
they
promoting
don't work.
Marxism now?
So a short answer to him is I bet he cannot define what his refined laws are. I bet he can't. So that's the short answer. Is Marxism compatible with Islam? Islam's the midway between capitalism and Marxism or socialism. So it says capitalism is necessary because you cannot manage the cost of everything by yourself. Marxism is like, no, Islam accepts that capital is a motivation, like to do something. You can't just say everybody should get paid for doing nothing, and our true nature, which nobody's experienced in the world, right? Our true nature is just to work even if we don't have to get paid for it. That's Marxism. And Marxism is saying, believe me, there's a utopian world out there. You just haven't seen it. Just believe me, and let's try to attempt to create it. That's insane. Islam, on the other hand, though, doesn't say capitalism solves everything. It doesn't, because if you had pure capitalism, people would have prostitution, they'd be selling themselves, and you'd have a moral breakdown, society would break down. You would have, the rich taking advantage of the poor. And so Islam provides, protection for the poor. It says you've got your basic rights to shelter, food, water, and there's always the fourth one I keep forgetting. But yeah, so let's call it short answer. Islam is the midway between socialism and capitalism, pure capitalism.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that capitalism and communism are materialist ideologies, because it's saying, you know, that there's a national pie, and we're going to be arguing about who gets, you know, which group gets a bigger slice of the pie. And I'm saying, I think Islam makes people more accepting of their lot. But obviously, if you're poor, you still want to be treated fairly, and that's why the Quran says, "Give each man his due," and, you know, do not exploit your workers, and, you know, try not to make them hate you, kind of thing. And then that will make the poor more accepting of their lot, or they will rise up against you and, you know, take you over, and you don't want, you know, a communist revolution. Yeah.
Cool. What's the next one?
Muslims are proud of the country with the most generous dole. So I think he's saying that Muslims just go to the Western countries which have a welfare state in order to claim welfare. So I think that's what he's saying. But you know,
I don't know if they're proud. I don't know. I don't know if we're proud of England. We're just nationalistic. So being nationalistic can mean you want to serve the country. So I'm not proud of England, really.
Well,
Maybe
he's just
I am.
sarcastic. He's saying,
Yeah.
you know, Muslims just want to scrounge off the welfare state of the Western countries they immigrate to. I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah, so I think we're seeing Muslims going the other way, and like the whole world going the other way, like leaving the West and going to Muslim countries in the Far East now, because everybody's saying like Western countries are becoming unlivable. So we're going to see the opposite of that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you have a welfare state, then, you know, don't be surprised when people claim if they're entitled to claim. So
yeah,
know,
that's true.
What people will do.
Yeah.
So he's asking what you think of Mamdani's policy of taxing white people at a higher rate than non-whites. Is that even a true statement of his policy?
No, it's not. He's just taxing millionaires and whatever color they happen to be. So he's just taxing. He's saying instead of 1% tax, give them 2% tax. That's what I've been listening to him say. So, and it doesn't affect them. And actually, I think a lot of millionaires would like to have a nicer city to live in, where, you know, like if you don't pay your workers, the people who are maintaining your city reasonably, then it's going to become a dump. And I don't think millionaires want to live in a dump. So I think a lot of reasonable millionaires are, happy with that. Of course, there are like the nasty ones who, just can't share another 1% of their wealth.
Well, a Muslim I know think that Mamdani is just a token Muslim, and then he gets elected mayor, and then there will be an act of terrorism, and then everybody will hate Muslims and kill them. Well, that's what
he's not very positive. He doesn't have a positive outlook. This guy, like, okay, Muslims are not supposed to judge each other. Like, if you're a token Muslim, that's not my business, And I'm mostly concerned not if he's just a Muslim, but if he's a good person and he's going to do good things. And so he seems to be much better than the other people who actively support Zionism. So they care more about Israel than America. And they don't even meet the basic qualification of leading the country. They're more interested in leading, benefiting some other country at the cost of the place in the country they're living in. So Mamdani's, obviously everybody's picking him because like the other ones are ridiculous. Other ridiculous choice. Other candidates are ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they are, but he's obviously dividing the Jews, right? Mamdani is dividing the Jews, and that's the most interesting thing about
No, he's
it.
trying to unite them. He's saying, I'm going to come to your synagogues. I'm not against anybody. And then, look, even the Jews are supporting me. He's not dividing the Jews. Maybe they're dividing themselves because some are just so hateful that they want to be against him, but they don't have to be against Mamdani. It's like Mamdani is just trying to help America. Now, if the Zionist Jews are angry because America's not giving all its money to Israel, then those people are anti the country. They're not patriotic. We should only be concerned with people who are patriotic.
Right. I mean, I thought, even without the Zionism issue, Jews would be, the ones who want cheaper rent, and the Jews who own apartment buildings who want people to pay them rent. So,
that's a different problem. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't accept the premise about Muslims having difficulty understanding the consequences of Marxism. I think, when people are feeling poor, they will find Marxism more attractive, the poorer they get. Because, the whole idea is the ruling classes are the ones that got this country into such a mess. Why don't we just take over their stuff? Right? I think that's just as simple.
Yeah, I think some poor people would feel that way, but more reasonable poor people would say that's not going to work. You can't just take other people's stuff. Why don't we just fix the capitalism we've got, like have fairer laws and protect the poor and stuff like that, which is what Islam does. Yeah.
So I don't know what that link he is. But anyway, he says you're lying because of what that link says, which we probably won't be looking at. Because what does he keep accusing you of lying about? Can you remember?
I gave evidence. I gave a video at least and a couple of links in one of my videos to show that white people were doing most of the raping in the UK.
Right. Yeah, it's statistics.
Maybe I'll post it again. Maybe I'll post it again on this video. Yeah, I'm really busy today because I'm leaving for Indonesia and I'm working the whole day. But yeah, I'll try to get it done tonight.
Oh, right.
I'll be working till quite late. 2 weeks. Yeah.
Oh, right. Nice. And do you think you'll be able to stream from there?
Yeah. I'll be streaming on Sunday. Yeah, I hope so. From the place I'm renting the hotel. So let's see how that goes.
Right.
It'll be 2 o'clock in the morning, so it'd be crazy. But I'll do it. Yeah.
Well, I hope. Will you be taking your wife?
Yeah.
Right,
and I'll possibly be going to Philippines to find a third wife as well. So that'll be interesting.
Will your second wife be there with you in the Philippines?
She will stay. So the Philippines is kind of pretty close to Indonesia. She says she didn't want to go for that part of the trip. So she'll chill out in Indonesia while I pop over there for a few days just to see what the possibilities are.
Right. So which island are you going to?
Just which one? You mean in Indonesia or Philippines?
Yeah, isn't it? I know there's an island in the Philippines where most of the Muslims are. So
I'm not going there. I think I'm just because I'm going to spend only a few days in the Philippines. I'm just going to go to the main island, which is going to have Christians, but I'm going to ask the Christians to convert to Islam if they're interested at all in marrying me. Yeah.
Oh, right. You're not going to get somebody who's already Muslim.
No, I mean there might be a possibility, but you have to go to a far off island, and I'm just gonna have a quick look around, just get a feel of what the possibilities are.
Yes, right.
Because I've seen videos. There's a lot of people who are interested in marrying Westerners and stuff like that. But I'm not sure what the reality is. I'm a believer in just practically seeing things yourself and kind of assessing things for yourself rather than just looking at YouTube videos. So by the way, I'm mentioning this because it's really, I think I'm always telling people, Muslim or not, if you want to get married, make an effort. Like just do less talking, less thinking about it, do something about it, and then you get results.
Yeah, and I'm telling men who actually don't want to get married, it's like fine, but you can still make a case for marriage by just expressing your views about what you expect from a wife, and then all the feminists will run away and not want to marry you. But maybe that's what you wanted anyway. You know, a bit like Duvet. I don't think Duvet wants to get married at all, but he sort of knows that he's supposed to. So you know, every now and then he pretends to be sad that he's not married, but actually, you know, that's the last thing he wants to do, right? Okay, maybe
Yeah.
that's a bit too psychological.
No, sorry, I'm just trying to get to the end and answer some of the questions and stuff like that.
Oh, it's all about statistics and you know of you know rape. I don't really have time.
Yeah,
I actually
there
have.
was a yeah, there was a Sky. No, who was it that asked if I was an Ahmadi Muslim? Where was it? Is it Skyworks or somebody else?
Rune skitzing.
Rune Skitson. Yes, I'm an Ahmadi Muslim. And for people who don't know, where the short version is that we believe the second coming of Jesus has come, but metaphorically. And the thing that distinguishes us from other Muslims is that we say love for all, hatred for none. So any haters out there in the comments, I don't hate you. I love you.
Yes. Did you? Oh, yes. Skywork says you're a self-admitted psychopath.
Psychopath, yeah, no problem with that. If you know what psychopath is, it means you're less concerned about social norms. That's all really. But yeah, it doesn't mean I kill people. I've never killed anybody. I promise. What
Yeah, so I think
else?
you finished your all the questions so far.
Oh,
I just
really?
want
Oh, that's good.
to,
Yeah,
you
go
know,
on.
finish my point I wanted to make about Paul van der Klee and
Hmm.
the Papal States. So he actually is against Christian nationalism, but I think a lot of the people who are his viewers and subscribers want his meetings to become a political party promoting Christian nationalism, but he himself does not want to do it. And he read a book about the Papal States and made the point that Catholicism fell to Italian nationalism in 1870. So basically, there were a lot of Italians in the 1800s already hated the Pope and wanted the whole thing gone. So, you know, during that time, there were lots of wars of national unification. You know, Germany became, you know, what it is now, because they were all German speaking, but they were all different kingdoms, and Bismarck, you know, basically united them against Austria, and you know, Italy also had its war of Italian unification, which basically ended the dominance of the Papal States, because the Pope actually, you know, ruled a large chunks of Italy, but the Italian nationalists basically said, you know, you're not doing it anymore. We're just confining you to the Vatican, and and that's all you're going to get, and you have no army, and nobody's going to come to support you. You know, all these Catholic countries. So your goose is cooked, but we'll allow you to exist and confine you to the Vatican. And I think two popes refused to come out of the Vatican because they thought they would be submitting to secular authority. And it was Mussolini in 1929, in the Lateran Treaty, that he, you know, regularized the whole thing. And then the popes, you know, came out again, you know, to you know, and actually was in Italy, but technically the Vatican is a city state, you know,
Yeah.
supposed independence. So basically, he's saying even to Catholics, you know, Catholicism failed a long time ago. So don't even think of bringing it back. America never was a Catholic country, so you know, why are you even thinking of using Catholicism as you know, a form of
Do you
Christian?
think Catholicism, in the last minute, is the only hope? Because what's his name? I'm going to be talking
Michael
to
Jennings.
yeah, like is it the strictest and the most unified form of Christianity? I think that could be the only hope for Christianity.
It was the oldest form, right? You know, for a time, everybody was Catholic, everybody was Christian, was Catholic, and then they split up, you know, with the Byzantine Empire, and then that which became the Orthodox Church, and then within Western Europe, the Catholic Church was undermined by all these kings wanting to be their own pope and founding their own church, like Henry VIII.
So exactly. So they need to bring back that unity if they want any hope, I guess. But otherwise, people just make up their own version of Christianity, and then you have the watered down version, and it guides nobody, I guess. Anyway, I better go. Thank you for
Alright.
having me, and I'll catch you next week from Indonesia, hopefully.
Yes, I look forward to your stream with E. Michael Jones on Sunday, is it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Looking forward to it as well. All right, take care. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate
Okay,
it. Bye.
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 Oh, there was something else I wanted to say about the Papal States. Yeah. So the other thing he wanted, he said was, well, basically, oh yes, I remember now. So in America, the church is divided between Americans who support the Democrats and MAGA Americans, and they all seem to think they can weaponize their church against the other side. And obviously, this is, you know, the thing is, Jesus never said anything about Republicans or MAGA or Democrats or democracy. And so Christians will never, you know, gain the ideological and intellectual coherence to make anything of themselves. And also, Americans do not seem to understand that they are only cultural Christians in the same way that. So America is a country of cultural Christians, and just like Turkey is a country of cultural Muslims, because Turkey is secular and it does not have sharia. So they can only, you know, as a Muslim, you can, you know, only go to mosque or church or whatever in Turkey, but you are not living under Sharia. And as for what laws would be under Christianity, you know, it would just be inquisitions and heretic burnings, and I don't think anybody wants that. So one of the reasons why I think the founding fathers rejected the rule of the British was because they didn't want any king telling them what to do. And the Declaration of Independence is basically an accusation against the tyranny of the institution of monarchy, which Christianity had the original purpose of supporting. So I have finished. If anybody wants to come on, please do. Oh yes, I could carry on complaining, I suppose. So last Thursday, you may remember somebody called Nathaniel coming on. He's Catholic, and I was under the impression that he was, you know, quite intellectual, that maybe he graduated in history, but he's having these very niche takes about Western history, such as that Rome did not fall until 1918, when the last Holy Roman Emperor abdicated, and his name was the Blessed Karl, and I've never heard of him. He's actually Charles I of Austria. And when I pointed out to him that Rome fell in 476 and the last Roman emperor was Augustus Romulus, I think I hope I've got the name right, he disagreed with me, and he said that this was just a Protestant take. But my my point is that to claim, well, to rewrite Western history as an amateur historian and a member of a religious minority is, well, really not a good idea. But then, of course, people will accuse me of doing exactly the same thing. But I am saying that if impartially, rationally considered, Sharia will solve all the problems of the currently unregulated nature of gender relations, labor relations, and international relations. So it would solve these very three important aspects of government policy that I guess, the average knuckle dragging Jew hater and Islamophobe is simply not capable of comprehending. No doubt these people will have fantasies of immediately kicking out all the people they don't like, and forgetting the reason why they were invited into the country in the first place was, or allowed to be in, or not immediately kicked out, was because they had their users, and a lot of people in hospitals would just die, if they all just disappeared in a puff of smoke. And here is Elliot.
Good morning, Claire.
Good morning.
I don't know why that guy gets me so wound up.
Because he's smug?
No, it's just the deception. It's the constant deception that I find atrocious.
So you say, perhaps you'd like to tell us the nature of his deception.
Well, the obvious ones, the statistics on rape are plain and evident. And he just pretends they don't exist and then in turn turns them around. It would be one thing if he had an excuse, but he has no excuse. He just inverts it and says that it's white people committing these rapes and this violence. And he can't be honest about the problem, right?
Well, I don't think that the statistics on rape are clear. I mean, nobody says Muslim rape statistics. You can't even get them.
I know they hide it for political reasons, but
Okay, so the thing is, you can't. But there's a lot of room for argument. So, what would be the point?
Yeah,
of,
there's room for argument if you're
arguing about it?
motivated.
And I guess his point is that because the West is still a white majority place, you would expect that more white men to be guilty of rape just because they are greater in number than minority Muslims.
I know, but he teaches math. He understands what per capita means, right? He should, or unless
Okay,
he's
but are there
teaching
any
some
per
retard
capita?
level of math.
Yeah, so per capita
Okay.
statistics. Can we have a link?
Oh, but let's talk. I posted a link before. I'll find it again. I posted a new link about a case in Ireland, which is literally, it's in the news. And if you look at the
I did
link,
look at it, and they
you've
say
looked at
it
it,
was an African
and it's somehow
asylum.
it's just not relevant, right? It's just not really
Wait, but
happening.
okay, it doesn't say that the guy is Muslim, right?
He says that he speaks Arabic, right? They hide it. They don't tell you. They don't. The media keeps the truth from coming out because it's too inflammatory. But if you read down the article, you see that they had to find an Arabic interpreter for him. Okay, so what does that really tell you? You think he's just some sort of Christian Arab?
Well, I suppose you could say, there's nothing in Islam that tells you to rape anyone, and people who commit crimes are obviously not following their religion. And you would expect a higher level of crime amongst immigrants for all the usual reasons.
Yeah, but why are you so resistant to the idea that English should remain English? And
I'm not resistant. I am saying the only way men of any country can get it together to do anything about their government that obviously doesn't care about them is to organize politically. That's what I'm saying. And how
I
are you
know,
going to unite
and they
people
are,
under
and they
any
are,
idea
and they
without?
are organizing politically, right?
Okay, they're all just saying, let's kick out the Muslims, let's kick out the
Yes,
Jews.
that's all it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that.
Okay, so right, they've been saying that for decades, right? Since the time of Enoch Powell, in his rivers of
Yes,
blood.
and Enoch Powell's been vindicated, hasn't he?
Well, the thing is that your demographics have changed, and
I
while
know, and okay, absolutely. The demographics have changed, and the cultural decay, which you rightly talk about, has also changed. And this is the problem with being a successful empire, is that they lead to decadence.
you can
And
become victims of your own success. I'm
yeah,
sure the Romans complained too.
so let's just talk about that, right? Why don't we make that a conversation topic rather than somehow, uh, indirectly elevating Islam as a solution? Islam is not a solution.
What is the
If Islam
solution?
is a solution, they would have a successful society to point to as an example, and they don't.
Well, he mentioned Dubai and those places. He
Okay.
said at the beginning that all these Westerners are now leaving the West to go and live in Dubai.
Yeah, and then they come
I was
running back because
intrigued.
it's a shithole. Ultimately, you peel back
Never been
the
to
layers
Dubai.
of all the big buildings, all the new shiny buildings built by oil money. The underlying culture is just shit, and so they come running
You
back
never
to UK
go
where they
there,
have proper
and
culture.
you'd never go, would you?
I would never go. I'd never contemplate going. No.
Yeah, yeah. So you're not expressing an informed opinion. In the meantime,
Have you
people
been to
want to
Dubai?
make any. Hmm?
Have you been to Dubai?
I know people who love it, Muslim and non-Muslim.
Yeah, I
But
know.
then
I know
I'm
people that
also
love
aware
LA.
of your
LA's a shithole.
Islamophobia.
We're on a tangent here. Okay, this is an unproductive tangent. There's very there's very few people leaving the West for Dubai. Yes, there's a handful, but statistically, it's a meaningless amount.
People are leaving. I mean, there's a category of white people called passport bros who go.
I know, and they're awful. They're the worst. They're the worst form of humanity. They need to return home and start building their country back. I hate these people. The Trustafarians. We call them Trustafarians.
Or like Richard Spencer.
Well, he may have been a Trustafarian at one point, but a Trustafarian has a trust fund, and they just kind of roam the earth looking for a cheap place to live with it still has Western amenities. Uh, they're a very low form of life. I dislike them very much indeed.
Rootless cosmopolitans, right? But then they
Yeah.
complain that they've never been there in any foreign country long enough to form any relationships with women.
Yes, I hate them. No, I think we agree on this point. Mercifully, a few points of agreement that we can have.
Well, can we talk about Luke now?
Why? Sure. Let's talk about Luke.
Well, I wanted to talk about his ideas of morality, which I found actually quite triggering. Since, it's
Okay.
like, oh, he converted to Orthodox Judaism, but he worships this atheist Jew called David Pinson.
Does he worship him or does he just like his ideas?
Okay, like his ideas.
Okay, so all right, yeah, so all right. So what do you want to talk about? So what ideas do you disagree with that he likes?
Well, David Pinson virtually says morality is just a feeling.
Yeah.
You agree?
Huh?
You agree?
Yeah,
You
I don't think
agree?
it's just. I don't. If that's what he says, I think it's probably more nuanced than that. I've forgotten exactly what he said,
I'm
but
sure it
if that's
is.
what he's saying, I agree with you.
No, because I do remember having a conversation with somebody else in person, and that was what he said, and I kind of blew my top. it's like, it's not just a feeling, is it? And then he said, oh, but you see something bad happening and you feel rage or whatever. It's like,
well, there is a certain component to that because our instincts tell us what certain actions lead to, right? And so we have some sort of memory, this primal memory when we see something that's immoral, and it sort of triggers us. And yes, ultimately it is a feeling, but it's a feeling tied to reason.
yes. So obviously, we wouldn't be human if we didn't have emotions, and our emotions are really a way of measuring the success of our reasoning ability, wouldn't you say? So if we're feeling bad, it's like, well, something went wrong, we lost the job,
Yes, and the higher, more intelligent you are, the more sensitive you are to the more subtle feelings. So there's a tie there, like between intelligence and feeling. And there's a hierarchy. There's this vertical scale in which you can calibrate these things. And so, do you believe some cultures have a higher morality than others?
Well, thank you for talking about this, because I'm saying, in a way, the solution is obvious, right? If people are just going back to their ancestral religion because they're frightened of their crazy, stupid government, they are, in a way, acknowledging that the seeking the protection of something more powerful than their government. And what is above their government, if their government is the global hegemon? As Americans must ask themselves, I imagine. But the answer seems to be, it's the Jews. The Jews control our government.
Well, people, I think there's the government, and then there's your culture, and then there is above that, there is the sort of the sublime. So these are different layers of appeal that people do, that people appeal to when their government fails them. And so liberals tend to, appeal to cultural norms as being, the highest principle. So when right now in the U.S., you have Trump deporting illegal immigrants, and there's this sort of tacit agreement among all of Trump's critics not to call them illegal aliens, just to call them people, because they have their value, they don't want to submit to an authority like the law. It's too transcendent. It's too abstract for them. I lost the thought. Sorry, I didn't really articulate what I was trying to say well.
Are you perhaps referring to the No Kings demos?
Well, that's a cousin of it. No Kings is like this retarded boomer branding of, they're seeing the world that they created crumble, and they don't understand why it's crumbling. And what they want to do is signal to one another is that they knew what they were doing when they were when they had power, and this present generation in Trump is destroying everything. So, but that I'm talking about the anti-ICE protests, ICE immigration enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people who are deporting illegal aliens, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody calls them illegal in the elite media. In public, NPR and all the regular media, they don't ever refer to them as illegal, which is sort of the critical characteristic, isn't it?
Yeah. Can you remind me what NPR is?
Oh, National Public Radio.
Right.
So National Public Radio it's the operating system of your average boomer liberal. I'm sure there's an equivalent. Channel 4 in the UK.
LBC, if you're talking about
yeah,
radio.
if it's public, it would be BBC.
LBC. I mean, LBC is kind of the radio station for men in white vans, you know, the angry white men who have to work for a living and they're very angry.
Oh, no, that's not this. It's not the LBC. I'm thinking, I don't know, is it the BBC? Isn't the British Broadcasting? Is there a
Yeah,
domestic?
the BBC is kind of for, you know, mainstream people,
Yeah.
you know, but LBC is
But
kind of
definitely
niche,
to the left.
bloke radio.
But the BBC is definitely to the left, isn't it?
Oh, yeah,
Slightly,
yeah, yeah. I
like
mean, Trump
liberal.
hates the BBC as much
Yeah.
as he hates MSNBC, etc.
Yeah, well, okay, so NPR is essentially the BBC. MSNBC is a little further to the left. It's sort of your liberal progressive type, the colored hair people. But that network is going broke and going under. Trump has really done a number on them. So,
What did he do to them?
well, he's made this whole white woke ideology seem passé, and it was really is what's done them in is the trans thing. The trans issue has alienated a lot of NPR white suburban women who are a critical voting bloc. It's made them turn towards Trump, and it's their betrayal of the liberal coalition, which basically gave Trump all the swing states and all three branches of government. So they're trying to get them back. And the first part of getting them back is getting rid of the trans movement and a lot of, kind of crazy woke policies. So that backlash is underway, and its first casualty has been MSNBC, which is sort of now watered down, and it's got none of NBC is the national broadcast system. So MSNBC used to be sort of a cousin of NBC. And now they're getting rid of all of their NBC content, and it's just going to be, a very low budget version of MSNBC. And it's eventually going to go out of business. So, so how has Trump done this? It's just the cultural movement around Trump has done them in. Can't you feel like there's just less appetite for woke nonsense now?
Well, I guess I have a Blue Sky account, but I can't be bothered to go there very often. But I mean, X is kind of on its own, I guess, because it's got lots of things you can say that you can't say on other social media platforms, and I'm mostly on X, so maybe I'm swimming in a different pond to other people, maybe.
Well, I understand. I haven't used Blue Sky, but I understand that Blue Sky is kind of eating itself because all of the ideological policing that's going on is sort of just antagonizing its own members. So if you don't really toe them, there's like a purity spiral that's eating up Blue Sky, which I find amusing, and which is natural, which happens.
Well, it happens when you put people who are of the same ideology in because then the natural tendency is to acquire status over the other by being purer than the others.
Right.
And there's these two extremism. I mean, it can happen in the right as well, or in religious
and it's sort of
circles.
happening to Twitter. So Twitter's becoming sort of a right-wing purity spiral, but not to the same degree that Blue Sky is. The whole fun of Twitter was that you had both sides. Once upon a time, you could just have at it with your ideological opponents, but then the right just got a little bit too successful, and they couldn't stomach it.
Well, I suppose that the problem could be solved with a merger of X and Blue Sky.
But that won't happen because the people that left X joined Blue Sky as an alternative. They wanted a hug box.
Yes.
And, now they got it, but now they're purity spiraling. People will never be happy. There will never ever be an ideal circumstance, because the minute that it's achieved, someone will start agitating for something just a little bit more to their liking,
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoy X by and large. I think it's fine. There's a lot of nutters on the right too. That is a problem,
Yes, and I
including
suppose
Hey, I can't wait for E. Michael Jones and Khalid to be on the same stream. I can't wait to troll them.
E. Michael Jones has been on Khalid's channel before.
I missed the first one.
I'll send you a link. Well, you'll know.
Hey, do you really think Jews are genocidal, like Khalid says?
Well, it's just one of these sort of casual. I don't even bother contradicting it. It's like, yes, it does say in the Torah that Jews have a religious obligation to exterminate Amalek. But then, if you ask rabbis, they will say, well, we don't know if they're still around. And, there is no rabbinical consensus on whether they are still in existence. But there's some kind of spiritual Amalek that we, in perhaps even ourselves, and we should watch up, all that kind of crap. So, I actually spoke to a Jew who mentioned it to me, and he was obviously concerned about it. It's like, it's such a terrible thing to do. I don't want to have to do this sort of thing. And I thought, well, I mean, okay, at the time I wasn't, I think was I already a secular Quranist? Anyway, I did say, well, you can get around the problem by becoming Muslim, right? Because a lot of these problems that Jews suffer can actually be solved by, well, Islam is Judaism light kind of thing. So if you're, kind of concerned about all the, fussy things you have to do about your food and stuff, move on over.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you've watched any of the Richard Carrier lectures, but a lot of the staples. Okay, obviously, Islam is a cousin of Judaism, and they both got a lot of their characteristics from some Egyptian religion from before, like the pork taboo. There's certain aspects of and circumcision they got from this Egyptian religion, and so both Islam and Judaism brought that in. Christianity was an attempt to bring. It was sort of a Judaism that didn't require circumcision or pork taboo.
Yes.
And so
and would be more popular with Gentiles.
Yeah, it was a way to sort of bring in Gentiles that didn't want to observe those two things. So anyway, his lectures are good.
Tell me more about Richard Carrier, because I was going to ask you about. Did he mention? I won't forget this time to watch the rest of the video, but I keep getting distracted. But did Richard Carrier mention Akhenaten in his theory?
He mentioned a lot of names he made up. I don't remember him not doing it or doing it.
Do you know Akhenaten, what he was supposed to have done? I mean, Philip Glass composed an opera about him, right?
He was one of the pharaohs, right?
Yes. But he was one of the pharaohs who promoted monotheism and moved his capital, I think, northwards, because he just wanted to be the intercessor. So he decided to worship Ra, maybe to, get round all the priests who were worshipping Isis, Osiris, and Horus, and all the others. And I guess he thought they were a bit annoying. And he wanted the Egyptians to worship him, and he would intercede on their behalves to, for the sun god Ra. That was basically what he was about. But as soon as he died, everything went back to the old polytheism of Egypt. And I was wondering if, Carrier, with all these theories about religion, mentioned that at all.
Yeah, I think the more I think about it, I think I remembered him saying something around that, but it wasn't quite that point. I didn't remember the monotheism part of Akhenaten, whatever his name is. But the point why it's relevant is that both Christianity and Islam are sort of a Judaism light. There's certain, and in a way, he says they're just cousins, the Christianity and Islam. But Judaism is the mothership of this. But Judaism also has its antecedents, particularly Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism.
Zoroastrianism, but you see, the Zoroastrians do not have scripture, and that's why scripture is so powerful. It's like the book from God, His laws in it.
Yeah, but my problem with Islam is that it's canon. I don't know if it's the Quran or the other one. Like 20% of it, I heard nobody even knows what the hell it means. Like 20% of their written canon,
so they just ignore it.
It's unintelligible, right?
Yeah. They have all kinds of theories. It's like, fine, you don't know what it means, so ignore it. Don't get into a tizzy about it.
Well,
And it's like, the story about the ants and Muhammad flying, to the sky and spitting the moon and rubbish like that. It's like, it's some allegory. We don't know, so we'll just ignore it. What can you do with something you don't know? Ignore it.
Yeah, but other traditions don't have this layer of glop on top of it. That you could just get a more concise enumeration of moral principles without all the psychotic nonsense layered on top.
Well, okay, you've got the no-hide laws. I don't know.
Yeah, I know what they are. You've talked about them for years. Hey, by the way, where's Vincent? Do you have a falling out or something? You don't stream it?
No. We spaced yesterday.
Oh, I missed it.
Well, you can still hear it. I thought it was quite a good one.
So is he still on about his like, captive women birth colonies or something? Or
well, he's into beyondism. Have you heard of Raymond Cattell? So he's very pleased with himself because he's got a female financier who's bought a website, and he's supposed to be producing essays promoting beyondism.
Oh, no, did he create beyondism, or is he just merely a follower of beyondism?
He's a follower. I mean, it's an idea by Raymond Cattell. If you've heard of him.
I've not heard of him. I'm not acquainted with beyondism. I can only surmise what is it all about if Vincent is an apostle of beyondism.
Well, beyondism is really about breeding different kinds of humans and getting them to compete against each other for supremacy, for genetic and cultural supremacy. And I just think, come on, this is already what's happening. You don't need to do it. It's already happening. And in fact, it's like, well, I guess if you're an American, you don't want any more diversity, do you? You want, a bit of a kind of monoculture, right? To make Americans feel American again.
Well, I'm old enough to remember when America did have a dominant culture, and there were still, minority enclaves here and there, and it was kind of interesting. You could go and get Indian food, or you could go get Chinese food, or, there were these minorities were here. It was manageable, but there was still a dominant culture that you sort of that you could fit into.
There needs to be a dominant culture. There needs to be a dominant culture, right?
And don't you right? And I'm sure this was the case in the UK, but the problem with immigration is it dilutes the dominant culture, and then eventually leads to struggle when the numbers get approximately equal. Each of these minority populations is going to vie for supremacy, and
Yes, yes,
this
I
is where we
understand.
are. Okay,
Because
so
nature
but isn't the
holds
solution
a
simple?
vacuum.
Isn't the solution simple?
Tell us your solution.
Restore the dominant culture, kick out the
Yes,
minorities,
how are
bring
you
them
going to
to
do it?
bring them
You
to
can't turn back time and,
cut
let's
off the
stop the
dole,
American Revolutionary
cut
Wars
off
again
the
and the
dole,
Civil War, and repeal the Hart-Celler Act, and
cut
there was an
off the
earlier one
dole.
about it, about being nice to other white people who weren't Protestants. I forget the name of it now. The 1923 one.
Hart Seller was that 65?
Yeah, and then I think there was one that said, "Oh, we WASPs must be nicer to the non-Protestant white people who are coming over." Like
No,
Catholics.
I'm not aware of that one. I'm not aware of that
Hmm.
one. I mean, like I said, some amount of immigration is tolerable, but unrestricted, you know, unvetted immigration leads to chaos, and it has led to chaos. Now,
Yes,
there aren't always birth problems in the United States.
the
You know,
Johnson-Reed Act, 1924. So let me read it out to you, because in
yeah,
case anybody's interested, because
I'd
I
like to
wasn't
hear it.
aware about it either. The main immigration act of the 1920s in the US was the Immigration Act of 1924, also known as the Johnson-Reed Act, which established a national origins quota system to limit the number of immigrants based on their country of birth. This act was built upon earlier legislation like the 1921 Emergency Quota Act, and was designed to favour immigrants from Northern and Western Europe, while severely restricting those from Southern and Eastern Europe, and completely excluding most Asians. There you go.
Yeah,
So it was a WASP deciding, we'll be nice to other white people from other parts of Europe. And then I guess that was the thin end of the wedge.
yes, that
But
seems.
there was this there was, okay, the Alien Contract Labor Act. Have I talked about that with you? And this
No.
was during the time of the was it 1898? This was the application for judicial review from the Church of the Holy Trinity, saying we can send over a vicar for the Episcopalian Church, because America is a Christian nation, and we haven't infringed the Alien Contract Labor Act. And it was found that they hadn't.
Well,
So you were having problems with immigrants way back then.
well, capitalism needs a certain amount of immigrant labor, unfortunately, and so if you're going to have a capitalist economy, there's always going to be that pressure for cheaper labor, and it's going to there'll be a gradual slackening of immigration standards, until you get what we have, which the doors have been thrown wide open. I mean, Trump's trying to close them, but the horses have unfortunately entered the barn, as it were.
Well, yes, because as you were saying, any business has its fixed costs, right? And like the rent and electricity, water, etc. And but the labor you can kind of mess around with, to pay them more or pay them less, and that's why. And of course, people complain when you give them less than you used to.
Yeah, but
So
then you have what we have now, and you have Mondami talking about taxing white people more. So this wasn't hyperbole. This wasn't a lie. This is literally what he said, and I posted a link to it. And then Khalid just says, no, that's just not happening. That's exaggeration and so forth. It's not exaggeration. It's literally true. And this is what makes him so infuriating. He has no ability to take on any new information. He just blocks it out and pretends it's not happening and covers his ears.
Do you want me to play that video? Would that make you happy?
No, I mean, now that he's gone, the point is I caught him in a lie and I proved it. And
well, I can send the link to him.
Never confront him on his bullshit. And it's just so irritating.
Well, what can I do? He doesn't agree with me on everything. And even I tell him, he'll just say blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, faithful secular Quranist that I am, I support the chat by my incisive questioning. I keep everybody engaged with my thoughtful analytics. And you don't do me the courtesy of pressing your guests adequately.
I mean, I already know that, the per capita, and then it's like we don't really have statistics to say Muslim men per capita commit more rapes than men of any other race or religion.
I'll gather up the stats for you.
Okay. I did actually use Grant to ask for these statistics, and Grant said, no, these statistics are not gathered, on the basis of religion. So I kind of gave up on that.
You can infer.
But it's controversial.
You know the origin countries, you know the origin cultures, and you therefore know the religion. So it's not a matter of
so you're basically saying you don't want them in your country. So it's like, okay, we get it.
I know. We act like it's just an issue. It's like an issue. It's just simply an issue like all other issues, and it has no consequence. So
no, it does have consequence. I mean, I'm acknowledging it. I even said that immigrant men who would be men of fighting age would be more likely to be who would be rapier than the local men with wives and girlfriends. Yes, I totally understand. I'm certainly not trying to contradict you.
You're honest enough to admit it, and Khalid is not.
Well, I guess you would expect some resistance to you saying that it's mostly Muslims, but I think Muslims.
Yeah, but all right. He's just going to sermonize about the virtues of Islam, and not engage with the critics of Islam. What value is his commentary?
Well,
and you can tell that my criticism of him or the chat are effective because he sort of, his body language just shrinks and shrivels up to this beaten dog look. You can tell when he's on the back foot. He just looks like a pathetic beaten dog. It's so hard to watch. Anyway, Claire, I gotta go back to bed. I don't want to bash on Kelly, but you can understand the source of my frustration, can't you?
Well, I'm just asking you to consider what your solution is. If Christian Americans cannot get their acts together,
you don't accept it.
No, I accept that immigrant men are more likely to commit crimes and sexual offenses.
Okay, we have to cut the welfare. We need to thin the herd. Like, you watch what's going to happen
in New York. White people will be complaining. It's it's our bus again. We need the welfare. We've lost our Protestant work ethic.
I know, you're absolutely right, and it's going to be an absolute shit show when this guy wins the mayorship of New York. Because they're all going to be expecting their socialist paradise.
The Jews. Isn't that great? You can blame the Jews.
This is going to be so bad. So fun to watch in a perverse way, but I never thought it would end like this. This is it. This is the end of the American experience.
No. I'm saying, Elliot, that it is your manifest destiny to, 250 years later, realize that the whole point of separating the church from the state was to, have some other legal system that is, acknowledged to have some kind of track record that will, put you all on an even keel again. And that's my message to America.
All right, I'll contemplate that. I have to go to bed. I have to go back to bed.
All right. Thank you for coming.
All right, thank you. All right, I'll see you soon. All right, bye.
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 So I will play. Actually, I will explain the Church of the Holy Trinity to people because I don't think people get it. I don't think Americans get it. Every time I talk about it, I kind of get a blank look. So why is it important? According to Wikipedia, it says Church of the Holy Trinity versus United States. 1892 was a decision of the Supreme Court of the United States regarding an employment contract between the Church of the Holy Trinity, New York, and an English Anglican priest. Alien contract labor law. Contracts to import labor were forbidden by the 1885 Alien Contract Labor Law, which prohibited the importation and migration of foreigners and aliens under contract or agreement to perform labor or service of any kind in the United States, its territories, and the District of Columbia, which is its own state, isn't it? Supreme Court ruling. The Supreme Court held that a minister was not a foreign labourer under the statute, even though he was a foreigner. Quote, I am going to mute Elliot. He's very welcome to come back in again when he wants. He can unmute himself. So let me continue reading. So this is a quote from the law report. Subject is granted and secured, but to revile with malicious and blasphemous contempt the religion professed by almost the whole community is an abuse of that right. Nor are we bound by any expressions in the Constitution, as some have strangely supposed, either not to punish at all or to punish indiscriminately the like attacks upon the religion of Muhammad or of the Grand Lama, and for this plain reason, that the case assumes that if we are a Christian people and the morality of the country is deeply engrafted upon Christianity and not upon the doctrines or worship of those impostors. I'm sorry, it doesn't even quote the complete sentence, and I don't quite understand what it's trying to say. But what I'm about to read to you now is a beginning of a paragraph. Unfortunately, people of that time, did not suffer from ADHD as we do, and had this rather dismaying tendency to write very long sentences. I apologize. I mean, it's almost impossible to. Oh my God. Yes, this one is a very long sentence. I warn you in advance. There are semicolons and the like. If we pass beyond these waters to a view of American life, as expressed by its laws, its business, its customs, and its society, we find everywhere a clear recognition of the same truth. Among other matters, note the following: the form of oath universally prevailing, concluding with an appeal to the Almighty, the custom of opening sessions of all deliberative bodies and most conventions with prayer, the prefatory words of all wills, in the name of God. Amen. The laws respecting the observance of the Sabbath, with the general cessation of all secular business and the closing of courts, legislatures, and other similar public assemblies on that day, the churches and church organizations which abound in every city, town, and hamlet, the multitude of charitable organizations existing everywhere under the Christian auspices, the gigantic missionary associations with general support and aiming to establish Christian missions in every quarter of the globe. These and many other matters which might be noticed add a volume of unofficial declarations to the mass of organic utterances that this is a Christian nation. In the face of all these, shall it be believed that the Congress of the United States intended to make it a misdemeanor for a church of this country to contract for the services of a Christian minister residing in another nation? There is no dissonance in these declarations. There is a universal language pervading them all, having one meaning. They affirm and reaffirm that this is a religious nation. These are not individuals saying declarations of private persons. These are organic utterances. They speak the voice of the entire people, while because of a general recognition of this truth, the question has seldom been presented to the courts. Yet we find that in Up the Graph versus Com, it was decided that Christianity, general Christianity, is and always has been a part of the common law of Pennsylvania. That's the end of the quote. The court used the soft, plain meaning rule to interpret the statute in this case. Justice David Josiah Brewer made a principle of statutory construction that it is a familiar rule that a thing may be within the letter of the statute and yet not within the statute, because not within its spirit, nor within the intention of its makers. Its decision stated that Circuit Court did err when it held that the contract hiring an English rector was within the prohibition of the statute, which disallowed a person, company, partnership, or corporation in any manner whatsoever to prepay the transportation or in any way assist or encourage the importation or migration of any alien or aliens, any foreigner or foreigners into the United States under contract or agreement to perform labor or service of any kind in the United States. So what Justice Brewer is saying that according to the plain and ordinary meaning of the statute, it does say that this rector from England has, the importation of this rector from England to America, obviously falls under the statute. But you will see that he's going to say, the Church of the Holy Trinity hasn't broken the law. So the next heading is Christian nation. The case is famous for Brewer's statement that America is a Christian nation. These and many other matters which might be noticed add a volume of unofficial declarations to the mass of organic utterances that this is a Christian nation. In a 1905 book titled The United States, a Christian Nation, Brewer explained further. But in what sense can it be called a Christian nation? Not in the sense that Christianity is the established religion or that people are in any matter compelled to support it. On the contrary, the Constitution specifically provides that Congress shall make no law respecting in its establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Neither is it Christian in the sense that all of its citizens are either in fact or name Christian. Christian. On the contrary, all religions have free scope within our borders. Numbers of our people profess other religions and many reject all. Nor is it Christian in the sense that a profession of Christianity is a condition of holding office or otherwise engaging in public service, or essential to recognition either politically or socially. In fact, the government as a legal organization is independent of all religions. Nevertheless, we constantly speak of the Republic as a Christian nation, in fact, as a leading Christian nation of the world. This popular use of the term certainly has significance. It is not a mere creation of the imagination. It is not a term of derision, but it has substantial basis, one which justifies its use. So you can see Justice Brewer is speaking out of both sides of his mouth. But what has muddied the waters at this time in America is, obviously, if anybody in America says he has a religion, it would be Christianity. That would be, obviously a few non-Christians, but the overwhelming majority of Americans at this time would, if they say they have a religion at all, would call themselves Christian. Rather like Muslims in Turkey, which is a secular state, not being governed under sharia, but if you look at the majority of people in Turkey, they would call themselves Muslim. Legislative intent. This case is cited most often in legal cases for its holding on how legislative intent can be determined. For example, in the case of United Steelworkers of America versus Weber, in which the Supreme Court held that the prohibitions against racial discrimination in the Civil Rights Act of 1964 did not bar all affirmative action programs by private employers which favored racial minorities. The Supreme Court quoted as part of its analysis Holy Trinity's principle of statutory interpretation that it is a familiar rule that a thing may be within the letter of the statute and yet not within the statute, because not within its spirit, not within the intention of its makers. So there we go again. I really would like to get the Supreme Court to relitigate the whole thing. So what I've just read to you is clearly referring to somebody saying that the affirmative action being promoted, being established in the Civil Rights Act of 1964, in fact infringes the First Amendment. And basically the court is saying yes and no, yes it is, and no it isn't, and screw you, we don't care that we're talking out of both sides of our mouths, and we don't care if it's going to confuse everyone, we don't care, we're just going to say yes and no at the same time. And I'm sure Duvid will probably cite this as an example of his multiple truth hypothesis when it is excluding, when it infringes the law of excluded middle, which basically says you cannot say that it is both raining and not raining at the same time in the same place. That's basically the law of excluded middle, and so it's annoying when courts and people try and say yes and no at the same time. But obviously it's convenient, right? To continue, Justice Antonin Scalia, referring to the holding in the Holy Trinity decision as the prototypical case in which a judge follows the intent of the legislature rather than the text of the statute. Yes, as Nietzsche says, interpretation is a function of power and not that of truth, wrote that this was in opposition to his judicial philosophy of textualism. The textualist position holds that courts should follow the text of a law rather than attempt to read exceptions into the law in accordance with the legislative intent. Yes, in the UK, we call it the literal interpretation. It's whatever the law says, we're going to follow it to the letter. We're not going to, pretend that the person who made the law meant something else and excluded or included certain things. Scalia has thus criticised the principle of the Holy Trinity case as nothing but an invitation to judicial lawmaking. So yes, so Justice Scalia is saying, well, Justice Brewer should have just declared should have just sent back the English vicar. In Public Citizen versus Department of Justice, 1989, Justice Anthony Kennedy, joined by Chief Justice William Rehnquist and by Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, rejected this approach to determining congressional intent. So I'm guessing that Anthony Kennedy is kind of. Oh, he was actually nominated by President Reagan. Because I was going to say they're both Democrats. And William Rehnquist is also a conservative. Let me read the final paragraph of what Kennedy said. The central support for the court's ultimate conclusion that Congress did not intend the law to cover Christian ministers is its lengthy review of the unofficial declarations of the mass of organic utterances that this is a Christian nation, and which were taken to prove that it could not be believed that the Congress of the United States intended to make it a misdemeanor for a church of this country to contract for the services of a Christian minister residing in another nation. I should think the potential of this doctrine to allow judges to substitute their personal predilections for the will of the Congress is so self-evident from the case which spawned it as to require no further discussion of its susceptibility to abuse. Well, I wonder if any of that was clearly explained. I will now share screen, the video that Elliot wanted us, or really wanted Khalid to see. I might as well watch it with you, so I will have seen it. I'll mute myself.
Out grocery stores, some executives, including one of the top grocery stores owners, billionaires, threatening to shut down his supermarket in the city. John Catsimatidis, who runs Gristedes grocery chain, you're probably very familiar with him. He said this on Election Day, quote, "If the city of New York is going socialist, I will definitely close or sell or move or franchise the Gristedes locations." In order to run New York City successfully as mayor, do you not need the support of a billionaire businessman like John Catsimatidis?
I don't know if I need his support specifically, but I want to make clear that my vision for this city is a vision for every single New Yorker, including business leaders across the city. And the reason I say that is that my proposals, even the ones to increase the top corporate tax rate of New York to match that of New Jersey, are ones that would also benefit those business leaders. Because when I have conversations with them, what I also hear is the just how expensive this city is preventing them from attracting and retaining the talent they need to grow their business. And ultimately, I'm looking forward to having those meetings, having those sit downs to make clear why this vision would benefit all.
So wait a minute. You're telling me that his pitch to go from a 7.5% corporate tax to 11.5%, almost 12% corporate tax is so that they can retain talent, as though if the grocery store owners, such as the guy that he's talking about, and or the people that are happening in the corporate America or whatever, so on and so forth, he's telling them that he's going to tax them more so that they can then retain more talent, as though they can't actually keep more talent by raising it. And it's not the conditions, it's not any other factor than the fact that they have to pay more taxes into the city of New York in order to do business there, and to move into a socialist environment. Okay. All right.
Went on your website and realized there's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods.
This is stupid. This is just dumb. Honestly, I'm not tripping about it. I think it's hilarious, and I think it's worth the conversation as far as having a conversation of how socialism actually destroys communities. It destroys whole countries. Whereas capitalism, even though there's a lot of people that complain about being in the victim Olympics and the oppression Olympics, and the fact of the matter is that they've made a lot of self-inflicted wounds and they had a lot of bad decisions. The fact of the matter is capitalism across the board is 10 times better when done right than anything inside of the world, which is one of the reasons why the United States of America is the greatest country of the world to do business in, and money is flowing in here by the trillions.
It's a pleasure to be here, first of all, and I really want to thank
I guess I'm a bit tired. I find that, well, I'm not going to argue about it, right? Obviously, if you're going to raise taxes, the poor people are going to complain, and I guess the rich people are going to say, you're going to tax us out of business, and things are already hard enough for hardworking businesses or whatever. But the point is, people are very excited about the idea of a Muslim mayor of New York. I mean, we've got one in London, so I guess we're going to have one in New York. Irrespective of the economic consequences, he may just be, a token Muslim. And if he gets in, the rest of America can blame the Jews. I just find that so funny. Sorry. I'm certainly not going to give you a rational or informed analysis of, whatever they were saying. But I will say before I go that obviously Islam is the answer. Okay, even if you don't want to convert, you surely must see the point of Sharia, or the Sharia light of secular Quranism. How could you not? The fact that you hate it is actually a point in its favor, because imagine if just any group in America said, "Oh, we really love Sharia," and then you'll find the other Americans hating them and asking why they should all get their way. But as it is, the Muslims will hate my interpretation of their book, and of course the Islamophobes will hate it, but they might find the tax advantages of living under Sharia irresistible. A flat rate income tax of 20% is surely irresistible to both the high income and the low income middle classes. And obviously restoring the patriarchy, supporting marriage and family values, and allowing Americans who want to start and support a family after the abolition of no-fault divorce will, I hope, persuade sensible, responsible Americans of the viability of my proposal. And once America leads, the rest of the world will follow, and America will have this potential, this opportunity of fulfilling its manifest destiny of being the exceptional and indispensable nation for spreading Sharia globally, and in this way redeem itself for its sins, individually and collectively. Thank you for your attention.